Hi, Dr. Craig Davies, TourCouncil.com. I'm back with Randy Myers. And we've just talked previously your master's degree, doing your thesis on golf biomechanics. You went in from there. He's working with some of the most legendary players who ever played this game.
Very fortunate there.
Yeah, amazing. And you talked about how you were down in South Florida. You spent a lot of time down at PGA National.
Yes, I did.
And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, it was fantastic. I mean, early in my career to be in a place like that where, there was a lot of golf and a lot of people trying to get better at golf. And of course, in the summers in South Florida, no one's really there, but the courses are wide open. So we started to draw a lot of younger players. And now when you hear players like Camilo living down there and Ricky Fowler, it's a result of these guys going down there and finding these great golf courses. Yeah. At the time, the Bears Club was being built. Greg Norman was building the Medalist Club. Nick Price was then building MacArthur. So there was an influx of young players coming to South Florida. In the meanwhile, I was still in charge of teaching the education of fitness to the PGA of America members.
Right, correct.
So that really branched my career into more of the instructional aspect of it. So guys like Todd Anderson, Mike Bender, Rick Smith, Jim McLean, guys that I really respect in this industry, kind of in my age category, were young, aggressive guys.
And top guys for a long time in their fields.
Yes, teaching great players would bring me in and we'd educate other instructors. And it gave me a lot of feedback on how much time does an instructor really have to evaluate a player? How much information does a club golfer really need? If you have a great young junior, how much fitness do they need to discuss with that player before they turn them off? Because golf instructors want to help players play better golf, and fitness is a component of it. So another U-turn happens in my life. I get a call from Greg Rose, who at the time had Advantage Golf, was not really the Greg Rose that we know today, and he says to me, hey, I'd like to get involved with the PGA of America. Could you get me a seminar set up? Can you believe that?
Yes.
Before Greg taught any TPI certifications, I got Greg a seminar. He taught some really interesting things, and we evolved into great friends. And several years later was asked to help Greg and Dave Phillips to start TPI. So now I'm sitting in a room with probably half a dozen of the best minds in golf, and here I am, just a trainer, from a background that wasn't really golf specific, and now we're evolving something that ended up being probably one of the most instrumental changes in golf, in modern golf history.
I would agree with that completely. I would say the last 10 years, maybe 15 years, sort of on the high end, that golf fitness has completely evolved into a global event, really. And TPI has been huge, and you're a part of that from the beginning.
Well, it's an interesting story because I actually interviewed for Greg's job, and Greg interviewed for my job.
Okay.
So Greg Rose almost came to Sea Island, and I almost went to Oceanside. And ironically, that evolved the way it did. Obviously, Greg's more of a clinician, and I'm more of a practical application guy. My needs from the PGA National experience fit more into what Sea Island was looking for, and obviously Greg's science background and medical background,
engineering background, all that kind of stuff.
But remain best friends. Obviously, very instrumental person in my career. But so all these twists and turns. My suggestion to anyone trying to get in this field is you got to go with it. You got to watch a lot of lessons. You've got to observe people train. You've got to be open to ideas. There's no methodology that you can't discount because you may learn one thing. I was teaching Pilates in the 80s before people even understood
what Pilates was.
And conversely ended up writing a manual for the first golf Pilates book, which today people say to me, I don't know, I do Pilates. Like, that's great, I do yoga, fantastic. As long as it's done within the best interest of the player. Some players may not need Pilates, others may need a lot of it, but you need to create that type of checklist for what do I need, what can I do, and how can I become more efficient.
Yeah, and that's a great point. With what Randy's saying, there's no one way to get to work with elite athletes. You never know. Pilates might have been a major part of why Randy was able to do certain things that he did, but he would never probably have thought of that at the time, that you're working your Pilates classes, hey, I'm going to be working with the greatest players that golf has ever had.
Right. I don't know I still to this day, I'm 50 now, I look back and I'm not sure I could have carved a path that would have put me where I am today, with a tournament here at Sea Island and McGladrey this week, with great players and great relationships with peers within my group, other than to suggest to anyone who's interested, the first lesson I ever had in fitness, before there was personal training, now you got to remember how far back I'm going, was that fitness can be the easiest low-paying job in the world or the hardest high-paying job in the world. And some balance between those two things will yield an unbelievable career that touches the lives of a lot of people.
Many people. Excellent. So we're going to come back. I'm going to talk with Randy a little bit about what's happened here on the PGA Tour now compared to what he was doing. And I want to take a little look at his facility.